to Horror from Beyond. I'm your horror host, Brian, and today we'll be heading to the sewers looking for chuds. Chud takes place in a gritty 1980s New York City, complete with steam-spouting manholes and garbage-lined streets. Right from the get-go, we're shown that something rotten is lurking below the Big Apple, as this poor lady and her dog are dragged below the surface. After this, we're introduced to George, a former fashion photographer, and his model girlfriend Lauren. Apparently, George has given up the fashion game for his passion project, taking mediocre pictures of homeless people, in particular, a community that lives underground.
You leaving little breadcrumbs behind so we can find our way out of here?
Come on.
We gotta go through here?
Come on.
I don't want to get all dirty.
Meanwhile, NYPD Captain Bosch is investigating a rash of disappearances occurring throughout the city. With most of the victims being homeless, Bosch heads to a local soup kitchen, run by this filthy weirdo, Reverend Shepherd.
There you go, sorry, can't be more.
Well, A.J. Shepherd.
Bosch, what are you doing here?
Shepherd believes the disappearances are tied to a government conspiracy involving the NRC.
Check this out. Huh? You like? Okay. Look at this. NRC. You know what this is? This thing detects accumulated radiation. They wear these things in nuclear power plants.
When Bosch confronts his superiors, he learns that a number of vagrants have been mutated into cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers. Yup, that's the official name the government has given these monsters. Some special meeting was called, and this superhuman menace, and the best they could come up with was Chud. Consider my disbelief
Cannibalistic
suspended.
humanoid underground dweller. A chud, all right?
Meanwhile, George and the Reverend find themselves trapped in the sewer after a series of poor decisions. The two are able to contact Bosch, who warns the duo that the NRC will be flooding the tunnels with gas in an effort to suffocate the Chuds. With Bosch helping from above, they reach the surface, stop the evil government lackey, and destroy the mutants below. So that is Chud. Seriously, a movie filled with more what the fuck moments than you could count. For instance, this guy eats a quarter for no real reason. Then there's this guy, a character introduced in the first act, peppered throughout the second, only to die suddenly with no impact on the narrative whatsoever. Or there's this out of left field scene where blood just shoots out of a clogged drain with no explanation. Clearly, the director was just trying to shoehorn in both a shower scene and a cheap jump scare. So with all of its quirks, plot holes, and logic gaps, this film still works for me. The practical effects are neat in a slimily cheap way. I remember being really impressed with the glowing eyes gag when I was a kid. There's also a solid elongating neck scene that is both parts gruesome and hilarious. Of course, it makes no sense, but once again, that's the beauty of Chud. For being a no-budget B-movie, the film casts some great up-and-coming actors, including the voice of Kevin Arnold and future wet bandit Daniel Stern, and the always fantastic John Goodman. Don't blink or you'll miss him. Another great aspect of the film is the city itself. Every scene oozes with atmosphere, practically becoming a character all its own. It's easy to confuse 1980s New York with Gotham City. So I'll be the first to admit I have a tendency to romanticize horror films from my childhood. 7-year-old Brian thought this movie was the filet mignon of horror flicks. In hindsight, it's closer to a Big Mac. I know it's terrible, and yet I find myself watching this thing at least once a year. So would I recommend the film? Well, that really depends on you. If you want substance, go watch The Shining. But if you want a mind-numbing, batshit insanity that only gets better with each beer, then Chud is for you. Alright, horror fans, that's it for today. I've been your horror host, Brian, and if you thought this episode was Chud-tastic, why don't you hit that like and subscribe button below?